Absorption and Diaspora Affairs Committee Chairman, member of Knesset Oded Forer, dramatically declared during a Knesset meeting on Monday that the government has abandoned the Jewish community in Russia. It came following a weekend that saw the situation for Jews in Russia deteriorate drastically amidst an attempted coup against the regime in the Kremlin by the Wagner private military group headed by Yevgeny Prigozhin. The leader of Wagner has long complained about decisions made by the Kremlin leadership in regard to the war in Ukraine. By last Friday, it appeared that he was ready to do more than complain, ordering his approximately 25,000 elite fighters to abandon their positions in Ukraine and march on Moscow instead. The Russian military and police apparently did little to stop these forces as they advanced on the Russian capital, coming within 200 kilometers or so. And then suddenly, Prigozhin unexpectedly ordered them to halt and later withdraw back to their bases in Ukraine. His actions were reportedly the result of mediation by the Belarusian president Alexander Lukashenko. The situation in Russia is certainly very unstable, even aside from the ongoing war in Ukraine. The economy continues to face downward pressure from the ongoing expenses of war and Western sanctions. Unemployment is on the rise also because many businesses have been forced to downsize their workforce amidst the economic turbulence. Despite all this, and despite the fact that over the past year, a solid majority of over 100,000 new immigrants to Israel have come from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, the Jewish Agency in this time is actually minimalizing its efforts. The Jewish Agency is actually having to marginalize its efforts to assist these new immigrants, prompting Ofer Sofer, who's the head of the Jewish Agency, to demand a change of course. The government must recalculate a course regarding to the immigration from Russia and not miss the opportunity for a large wave of immigration. Forer said in a recent statement that there are about 60 to 70,000 Israeli citizens there in Russia, and then of course another 500,000 or so who are eligible to make Aliyah. This means, he says, that a downsizing in resources dedicated to Aliyah from Russia is not good right now. We are witnessing significant worsening of the situation, which requires the government to act quickly. Meanwhile, even as the situation for Jews in Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and many other countries in Europe continues to get more difficult, the situation here in Israel shows signs of improvement. Another sign came on Tuesday when an inaugural Korea and Israel One Network KION conference opened in Jerusalem with the representatives from South Korean capital of Seoul signing a manifesto along with other counterparts from the Israeli capital. The manifesto declares that Israel and South Korea will be taking steps in the near future to improve bilateral relations in politics, business, culture, media, religion, education, and humanitarian aid. This manifesto also included a declaration that Israel is entitled to the blessings of God listed in Genesis 12, and that Israel and Korea will work together to fulfill the role that this biblical passage speaks of. The KION group, led by the leaders of some of South Korea's largest evangelical churches, is supported by prominent members in business community, civic leaders, and so on. Israel and South Korea signed also a free trade agreement in 2021 and have seen a large increase in bilateral trade since then, creating thousands of jobs and expanding economic opportunities in both countries. Many of the officials and business leaders at Tuesday's event said there are many more opportunities for growth, and they believe much better things are still to come. So what does all this mean? The potential for 500,000 Russian Jews to move to Israel is staggering. It's unlikely that all of them would come and make Aliyah. Even if they did, it's unlikely they would all come at once. But even if half of them came in the next 5 years, that would be an enormous challenge to the state of Israel. The capacity of this small country to absorb large numbers of new immigrants would be severely tested. Just imagine the challenge of finding housing for these newcomers, not to mention Hebrew school, job training, professional certification to integrate their business, schools for the kids, and many more things that they'll need. The government of Israel is aware of these challenges, and there are many people who will remember the massive influx of the Russian-speaking immigrants in the early 90s and the experiences that they could draw on to prepare for what's coming. Experience from the 90s and hope is not enough. Concrete action is necessary, including large-scale construction of new housing, educational facilities, commercial properties. Much more will be needed. It's an enormous task, and the government simply can't handle this all alone. That's why private initiatives like the Aliyah Return Center are so important. It's only through cooperation between the public and private sectors that this vitally important work, this holy work of assisting Aliyah in the absorption of these new immigrants, will be accomplished.